Hi, welcome back to part 2 of our evolution notes. So we're going to go ahead and finish up this booklet, and that is going to be it for all of our new notes for biology. So it's really exciting. You made it this far, and y'all have been doing great. We're almost done. We're almost there at the end of the year. We have our STAR test to do, and I know y'all are going to do fantastic on that, and summer will be here before you know it. All right, so let's get started. So speciation. Okay, speciation is the formation of new species after reproductive isolation reduces gene flow. Okay, so without gene flow, you're not going to have any genetic variation. So, from there, you have your own separate species. So we have several different causes for this. So we could have geographic isolation. And most of these, are pretty straightforward. So like geographic isolation, you can see in that picture up at the top, where you have like a lake or a mountain that's separating, two types of organisms. You could also have behavioral isolation. So it's really funny in the springtime. I laugh at this one. So if you ever are in the car and you stop and, you see like a blackbird like doing a dance at like the stop sign, that's behavioral isolation. That blackbird is really confused for whatever reason. He thinks the stop sign is another blackbird. So, that stop sign is not going to be charmed by that blackbird dance. And then we also have something like temporal isolation. So temporal isolation is when species reproduce at different times. And so this is actually one of the reasons why allergies can last the whole year round, because, plants will release their pollen at different times of the year. So there's more than this, but these are the three major ones when we're talking about creating different species. So when we're talking about patterns of evolution, we can actually have several different, things that we see whenever we're looking at, like, let's say a fossil record or, anything that's our evidence. So, for example, we can have something called adaptive radiation. This is when you had one species and for whatever reason, maybe it's food source, maybe it's habitat, they all branched out to all these different species. We have coevolution. So with coevolution, two species are evolving and changing together. So I thought this was a very good picture. You can see there's this hummingbird here, and its beak has essentially evolved the same as this flower shape. And so that way the beak can fit nicely into this flower shape and get the nectar that it needs. We also have convergent evolution. Okay, so with convergent evolution, this one's actually really cool. So this is when organisms that are completely not related end up looking like each other because of their environment. So for example, if we look at a puffin or even a penguin, a dolphin, a shad or a shark, and an ichthyosaur, so an ichthyosaur was an aquatic reptile, they actually all have similar colorations. And if you don't believe, an ichthyosaur, because it's fossilized, we don't know what they look like, think of a crocodile. So all of these animals have like a light colored underbelly and a dark colored top. So that's because they're in an aquatic environment. And so if you're looking from above, it's harder to see because, it's a dark colored top. If you're looking from below, it's harder to see because the sun, might be shining. So all of those things are structures that form because of environmental pressures, and they're called analogous structures. So we talked about homologous structures. Homologous structures are like the same bones, even though it's different animals. This is kind of the opposite of that. So these are all different animals, but they have a similar structure because they live in a similar environment. So like, for example, we have an insect wing. So an insect has no bones whatsoever. It just has cartilage. We have this I think it's pterodactyl wing. It looks like a pterodactyl wing. You can see that there's not bones going through it. It's just like a membranous film. We have a bird wing, and then we have a bat wing. So that's an insect, a reptile, a bird, and a mammal. So 4 different things that have wings, and you can see the wings look very different, but they all have wings, and that's because they all live in the air. All right, so gradualism versus punctuated equilibrium. So this is one of those things that's under debate just because our fossil record's not complete. And so we can have something called let's see here, punctuated equilibrium. which is actually equilibrium. Wow, that's hard to spell. Okay, so which is this one over here on the right. Okay, so you can see that, you know, a species is going, bam, all of a sudden you have two new species and we're just going. Okay, so you have longer, you know, very long stable periods with very brief interruptions that are extreme. This other one, okay, gradualism, okay, is when you have slow and steady change. Okay, so you end up with, you know, different types of species over a period of time. All right, so if we wanted to show a diagram of how species are related and how they do change over time, we're going to use something called a phylogenetic tree. Okay, and you may hear it called a cladogram. Okay, it's the same thing. So these are based on phylogeny, okay, which is the study of relatedness. So the more closely related two organisms are, the more closer they are on the cladogram. Okay, so for example, okay, a mouse and a chimp. I know they're both mammals. Okay, they both have fur. They both have two eyes. So I know that those two are closely related. A chimp and a lizard. Okay, so they're related because, you know, a chimp and a lizard, they both have mouths, they both have the same digestive system, both have hearts, eyes, things like that. They both have feet, you know, but they're not as closely related as like the chimp and the mouse. Okay, so if we're looking at a cladogram, you'll notice that there's two characteristics on here. One, you have your organisms that are on here, and two, you're going to have something on these nodes that are the derived characters. So these derived characters are going to be characteristics that an organism has going down from that letter. Okay, so for example, okay, if I come over here, okay, to A. So A is going to be something that all of these organisms have because A shows up before even my first organism. So if I look at this organism, okay, I could see that it has little ridges on it. Okay, and if I look right here, it's a very simple organism, doesn't have legs. So this one actually has a segmented body. Okay, so segmented body just means the little, you know, different pieces. So just like we see these little ridges here. Okay, so some of these are going to be easier than others. So if I look at the difference between this dragonfly and this moth, I know that that's moth is the one that I have curly antennae. Okay, so that's going to be H. Between my, let's see here, fly and my dragonfly, okay, I can see my fly has one set of wings. My dragonfly and my moth both have a double set of wings. All right, so between these four organisms and my fly, okay, I can very obviously see it's only my fly, my dragonfly, my butterfly that actually have wings. Okay, so that is going to be letter F. All right, so let's see here. I have B, C, F, D, and E. B, C, I'm missing one. Let's see here. B, C, nope, I already did F. Okay, so B, C, D, and E. All right, so I have 6 legs, Circe, okay, and crushing mouthparts, and legs. Okay, so if I look right here, the worm is the only one that doesn't have legs, so I can say that legs is B. All right, so now I have 6 legs, Circe, and crushing mouthparts. So the Circe, that's actually where you have that big fat abdomen and all of your legs are attached to the abdomen. So I've done this long enough that I've had to look it up enough times. So I know E is Circe. So additionally, yeah, I know this spider. This spider is an arachnid. It has 8 legs, and that's a characteristic of arachnids. All of these others are insects. They're actual insects. The spider is actually not an insect. So I know between my spider and the rest of these organisms, the rest of the organisms have 6 legs. So that has to be letter C, which means my ant has to have a crushing mouth part, which is D. And that's why ant bites are, you know, so they sting so bad because they have the crushing mouth parts. Okay. All right, so to finish up, There's some practice videos here. We're going to be watching some of these in class, but if you want to watch these on your own, they're all right here. Just remember that, if all of this seems really hard, even the most famous scientists have rough days. So, for example, Charles Darwin, okay, this was actually found in his diary. I'm very poorly today. I'm very stupid. I hate everybody and everything. Okay, so, it happens. Okay, and tomorrow's a new day. So just remember that, everybody goes through stuff like this and you can do it. So, and just as a funny thing, you can ask your parents about this, okay? Ask them about the evolution of the cell phone. So this doesn't have everything here. 2019 was the most up-to-date thing that I could find. But you could see how our cell phones changed over a period of time. They were huge, they were bricks, and eventually they got smaller, where you could actually text and it had the, touch screen that all of y'all have today. Okay, so it's pretty interesting to look at these cell phones. So hopefully you'll understand it. Celebrate now because you finished all of your notes, and I will see you later. Bye.